Hey, what's up, fam? We're getting close to the end of my whole thing with the Mashimaverse. Obviously, what I've said with that many times is, I guess the fan theory that with Hiroshima being able now with interplanetary travel within Eden Zero, that we could do things like, yeah, any of the series could exist on different planets. You can connect them all and kind of have some like big connected crossover universe, kind of like something like DC or Marvel has with their characters, or even now that we have like the Chronophage doing time travel shit, and really with Hiroshima's works, they kind of all exist in the idea of the same timeline that we got in Rave Master, that X three numbers, and every time it gets to 999 it resets. And you have stuff like Rave Master taking place in, I believe it starts in X051. Fairy Tail starts in X784, and Eden Zero starting in X492, I believe. Yeah, it's just a fan theory. Obviously, I'm not saying this is definite canon. It's just a fan theory aspect of it. So with this one, it's actually a lot different than what Hiroshima usually does. Usually, he likes to do kind of westerny fantasy style stuff, and then kind of like mix and match stuff from all over the place into one big thing. This one, Starbutter Satsuki, was a very Japanese style series, and normally you'd think, oh, a Japanese guy doing a Japanese series, but when you look at all of Hiroshima's other stuff, he would do much more of a, like I said, a kind of a Western fantasy style thing. That seems to be where his heart is. And here, I think he just wanted to give an attempt to, uh, his own culture story. And the story itself it isn't bad. It's just, I don't know. I think it's different. I think it had potential. I think it could have been something if he decided to pick towards it instead of Eden Zero. But we ended up getting Eden Zero, and Starred by Satsuki kind of sits in the back in the maybe one day pile. So this story was about this girl Satsuki who was she seemed kind of awkward in a she was when you compare the dialogue to her and the other characters, she seems very well spoken, very kind of proper traditional style of like Japanese way of language, but she kind of seemed a little bit straightforward in nature. She was like drooling at thinking about eating like wolves, and she like talks with her mouth full and will eat food before it's fully cooked. And it just seems to be a little bit of play on her on the whole character, her trying to be very proper but kind of failing in itself. But her whole kind of goal and layout is she is kind of put between her a goal from her master, which is this bird guy who created these 100 demon swords, all with different kind of abilities and powers, even one that's actually a reference to Natsu. It's called the Fire Dragon Roar, and it's like a fire spitting sword. But the 100 demon swords this guy created were stolen by an unknown thief and kind of sold throughout the world. So now Satsuki is on a journey to find and destroy all of the ones that her master created to prevent the world from, being exposed to whatever they could do. You had one that like every time it swung, it would create seven strikes, and one that grew really big, and then the one that actually turned the dude into a bird was one that for some reason he made a sword that turns people into birds. I don't know why you do that, but he did. It seems like his kind of just inventive nature eventually got the better of him. But also, Satsuki has this really weird trait where she will power level swords. She'll look at a sword and be like, "Oh, that's 106. That's an 84. Yeah, that's a 206." It's a really weird kind of thing to give to her. It seems almost like honestly establishing a way to do power levels regular in a series, and I would not really have liked that. Like I've said, power levels kind of exist when you look at it from a reader standpoint. You can kind of gauge where characters sit at. When you try to apply like exact numbers to it, it kind of falls apart. I think that's kind of what happened. Part of with Seven Deadly Sins after this first arc, but whatever. With this, I think there was definite potential in this series. I actually really liked that. Kind of like how the places in Fairy Tale were named after plants and flowers. In Rave Master, it was named after music. In this, in Star Butter Satsuki, it looks like the places were going to be named after birds. And it looks like the first one, Satsuki actually went to this place Pelican Pass, and she kind of showed a litthe bit more of her kind of odd nature. And when it came down to like, hey, there's this encampment of of warriors, and they all got these swords, and they're kind of keeping the town hostage. But she just kind of starts laughing, and it's like, "All right, I'll be your bodyguard, dude. I'll guard you." And she ends up running straight there with no hesitation because she talks about how swordsmiths, above anything else, love to inspect and see other swords. And then she like kicks the door down. I completely forgot about that scene when I read this originally a few years ago when it came out. I just don't remember. I don't remember the weirdness of her kicking the door down. And then when she goes right from like kind of a wild nature, to being like calm and collected, analytical, and kind of analyzing all the swords, figuring out who's a threat and who's not. But once the boss comes out, I thought it actually was really funny because the boss was they call him like the leader of the wolf family or the wolf gang, but he's like a big cat dude, and he just makes like cat jokes the whole time, and he's got his fan service sword to show up titties. And it was a shame because you'd think that would be one to follow up in a funny way for the series, but actually gets broken because Satsuki's thing is she can kind of create her sword with magic and creates a power level sword that's like 1500 her, which is the whole thing about the series is her sword is it's either her sword or her power is called Starbiter, which then she can kind of increase this level of her sword just by applying power to it. She's like a Japanese like vagabond style, or as a little bit with her own twist to it. But I don't know, it seemed like a kind of a cool character. She didn't even notice while she was fighting that her pretty much her chest was just a smidgen away from being fully exposed. But afterwards, getting embarrassed when the fight was over, and then getting ready to continue on her journey to go back to find the rest of the swords. It's a fun little series, kind of like one shot. There was a lot of potential behind it, like I keep saying, and it's enjoyable. It was kind of strange though to see Hiroshima do something more in a Japanese style instead of doing like a fantasy western. But I'd be alright if he did it that way. But I'm wondering if he didn't continue it because it kind of felt weird for him too, you know. Anyway, tell me what you think down there. The next one and the last one, part 10 of the Mashimaverse main characters list will be Shiki. It will be the last one for it, and then I'm going to be moving on to a different project, which I gotta try and figure out which one to do. I have a few of them kind of thought of, but I'll look into what exactly I want to do. Maybe I'll actually get to the Clash profiles like I've been wanting to lately. But anyway, yeah, tell me what you think in the comment section. If you like my content, check out my other stuff. I do mostly manga stuff, Fairy Tail, Eden Zero, and Black Clover, as well as anime stuff. Uh, Fairy Tail's anime, Radiant, and Goblin Slayer. I'm gonna add some more stuff to that roster soon. And I hope you have a good day. If you're subscribed to my channel already, thank you. If you aren't, I hope you can get you to subscribe. If you liked the video, maybe give it a thumbs up. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening.